Hello, hello. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. I wonder how many of these presentations you've already listened to or viewed so far. Obviously, this is pre-recorded, but I look forward to engaging with you later on with your questions. And I want to give a big thank you to Think Global Conference for putting this all together. I know it's not easy in the midst of the pandemic and dealing with all of the different technology pieces. I know we all have our various challenges with that. So in any event, I'm going to be talking to you today about the importance of branding. And my name is Nadya Rousseau. I am the founder and CEO of global marketing and PR agency Alter New Media. I established the company at the end of 2017, and since then we have supported over 400 companies from all over the world in sectors including technology, professional services, consumer services, and fashion and entertainment. Our goal is to support mission-driven companies with achieving their business objectives while also making a difference in the world. So, in short, after supporting so many different companies and having personal experience in social media marketing since 2012 in a past life in the entertainment industry, I have a lot of experience dealing with positioning and strategizing and just making sure that the companies and individuals that I and the agency support are standing out and established in the right way. And one of the things that makes us unique is that we have a very purpose forward approach. And we do believe that purpose and profit are not mutually exclusive. We do a lot of work in partnerships with nonprofit and for profit and nonprofit with influencers. And that is also a part of branding and positioning while also making an impact and giving back in the process. So, with all of that said, I do think I know my stuff. I've been doing this for a while, and so I'm really excited to share a bit of my expertise and experience on the subject of branding with you today. So, why is branding important? You know, a lot of companies, a lot of people, period, tend to get tripped up on the concept of branding. It's because there are a lot of misconceptions about branding. But without branding, you actually lack identity because brand is identity. Brand is not just looking at your color palette, looking at your logo, and looking at your overall visual aesthetic. Now, certainly that is a big part of branding, but that is not where you want to start from the very beginning. In fact, if you do start with the external pieces before the internal pieces, what's going to happen is that as you're developing your positioning, your target audience is going to feel more of a shallow representation of your business and therefore not connect with you as well. You might have a gorgeous website that you might have spent, 5 figures plus to develop, but if you have a gorgeous website without the meat behind it, it's just not going to have the same resonance and impact that a brand that literally has been developed from the inside out would have. Okay. So, brand identity. What exactly is brand identity? Like, what are you talking about? Maybe you're already rolling your eyes or thinking this is overwrought. Like, there's plenty of brands that have a great look and have a beautiful Instagram feed and their website is perfect and everything is aligned aesthetically. So why does it matter? Well, it matters because again, if you don't start first with your mission, your vision, your values, and your culture, what you're going to find again is essentially an empty shell. It's kind of like, if we're to draw an analogy, a person who is really well dressed, but perhaps and they're at a party and they look fantastic and maybe they really are fitting in on the outside. They really did their research, knowing who's going to be there, knowing the type of event that it's going to be. So they took a lot of time to look great for this particular event. And then you're like, wow, I'm really drawn to this person. They look like they have charisma. They're so well dressed. You go up to this person thinking they're going to have, a lot of interesting things to say, potentially, whether it be something that actually connects to that particular event they're at, or just about themselves in general. And then what you find is, hi, uh-huh, okay, yeah, one line sentences. They don't have a lot of personality to speak of. They don't have much of an identity outside of that initial beautiful external shell that you were once drawn to. And that's because, that obviously on an individual basis, there's a lot of things that we could broach there, but we're talking specifically about brand as it connects to business. But what I'm trying to say is that when you don't take the time to really establish your mission, your vision, your values, and your culture, you eventually, that beautiful shell that you've established is only going to get so far. And further to that, when you have taken the time to really well establish these pieces before moving forward with creating the beautiful website, creating the content, and doing all of the other pieces, doing the ad campaigns, doing this, doing that, you're going to find that everything is going to be much more substantive, and therefore you're going to have a bigger financial impact as well. So well, not the other day, but maybe a couple weeks ago, I was working with a software company, and I was working with two of the founders, and I asked each of them, what is the mission statement? Now, I was taking them through a branding exercise, but the reason why I wanted to ask them both about, what their mission statement was on the call is because I wanted to see if they were aligned in mission, if they were really on the same page with the mission of the business. And what I discovered was each of them had a completely different mission statement, which obviously was, a little bit of cause for alarm, but nothing too, 911 worthy, because we were doing this call and we were going over this. So that's why we started working together right away to dial in on that mission. So Alter New Media's mission, as an example, is to support mission-driven entrepreneurs and companies with achieving their business objectives while making a difference in the world through purpose-driven marketing, including strategy development, social media marketing, influencer marketing, and PR. Now, obviously, what I just provided there is a little bit long, but typically with your mission statement, you kind of want to, dial in on specifically what you do, why you're doing it, who you're serving. It's kind of a several prong process. With your vision statement, that's at a higher level, really what you're envisioning to see, or the outcome that you're envisioning to see with your business by and through the services, products that you're providing. Obviously, when we're talking about values, we're really looking at what is important on a deep level to your business. What defines your business as it connects to values? For some businesses, those values could include, making a difference in some way. It could include just a responsibility, social responsibility, of course, is a big one. In innovation, that actually is a value, and it's an important value. But you want to break it down, and then as you go through and dial in on your values, you're going to get clearer and clearer, probably, as to what your culture is. Now, the way I'm describing this right now is somewhat from the standpoint of, looking at creating all of these pieces as a new company. Now, if you're a more established company, you might have to look back a little bit and do some analysis through, and really looking at your company culture and starting at the bottom and then moving back to the top. And perhaps you already have a well-defined mission, but you also, want to take stock occasionally of that mission, the vision, the values, to ensure that you're still on track with everything. So going back to what I was mentioning a little bit earlier about the fact that when you have a well-defined brand identity, at the end of the day, you're not going to just have more resonance and impact right? With your target audience, with your customers, your clients, your partners, and so forth. But you're also going to gain the most ROI from everything that you're doing. It is a known fact that revenue does drive up with more consistent branding. Think of it this way: if your business is appearing one way on your website and a completely another way on your Instagram account, and then a completely different way on your LinkedIn, and then all of your team members, they are not showing up in alignment with each other, it's going to be very disjointed. So, as an example, say you're running an ad campaign from a Facebook, which likewise has an aesthetic, a vibe, and all of the branding pieces completely opposition from, say, your Instagram or your LinkedIn. You're running an ad campaign from there, and someone who had initially seen you on Instagram or LinkedIn sees that ad campaign, they're going to be like, what? Like, this is the same brand? I don't know. It's going to create a level of distrust. When you have consistency, continuity, and branding, trust goes up. And that's where that revenue increase is coming from. And according to a recent source on branding statistics, I have the footer here. You can grab that, you can screenshot that for your own reference. Revenue increases by 33% with consistent branding. I think that's enough to take a step back and really think hard about what you're doing, or rather, what you're not doing on the branding front, right? Because without defined branding, it really is impossible to reach a target market and stand out as an industry leader. You are going to blend in. Now, I know a lot of the folks tuning in today to this presentation are, really working at a high level. So, a lot of the companies that you're representing are global brands. And so that, makes the need for branding even more important. And that's even if you are working more on a business to business level versus B2C or B2B2C, it doesn't matter, because when you're reaching out to your prospects, or your salespeople are, or your biz dev people are, if there is inconsistency in branding and there's no establishment there, even if you're great at what you do, you might not gain the same traction or reaction that you would if you had cohesion and branding across the board. And the reality is, with really great branding, you gain not only do you gain momentum in terms of gaining attention and traction with your target market, but you also have the potential to gain momentum and traction with respect to garnering media appearances. Your executives that work within your company, they likewise might have the opportunity to become thought leaders on your behalf. That's why it's really important as an organization that you develop a clear, cohesive brand, and through that, a clear culture. And again, sometimes that might work on the reverse. Maybe you have never gone through branding exercises before, so you already have a pretty defined culture, but you haven't utilized or leveraged that existing culture, or really broken it down or articulated it in terms of brand. But once you have done that, you are going to see a real positive outcome there. And that positive outcome is not going to just be with respect to driving up your revenue, but also with respect to driving up how well known you are in your niche. Okay. So if you're not sure where to start, I want you to begin with these 3 questions. Because, I mean, they're very simple, but they can actually open up a lot for you in terms of really dialing in on the areas that I mentioned before, with respect to personality, vision, values, and so forth. Okay. So the first one begins with why. Why do you do what you do? Now, again, I know that you might think, well, these exercises are for smaller fish, they're for B2C companies. We're not selling socks to consumers on the internet. We're working at a high level. We're working with other big global enterprises. We're doing trade. we're doing this, we're doing that. But again, I want to emphasize and reinforce that the more you have cohesion in your brand, it also is going to develop more continuity on an internal level within your staff and within your partners and everything else. So if anything, look at it from that standpoint if you still feel some resistance to partaking in these exercises. So why do you do what you do? What is that why? This is something obviously as a larger company, you're going to want to query your entire executive team, maybe even your advisory board. You should set a plan to have a meeting to, figure this out. It's not going to be an overnight thing. You probably are going to have to go through a few meetings, a few conversations to really get some responses here. The next, after the why really does need to preface the what. You want to dial in on that more emotional piece before you get into the intellectual piece. What do you do? Dial in very closely, very succinctly on what you do. We do not want a novel length response here. Now, that said, you can certainly start with a novel length response and then highlight the parts that stand out the most. And remember, no shame in just opening up a Google document, your team members, and playing with this. It doesn't have to be developed on some beautiful document. I don't want you to be held back by unnecessary fluff. I want you to just do these pieces, do these exercises. They're going to be great for you. On the third side, for whom do you do it for? So for whom are you doing what you're doing for? Now, I'm sure this is going to be at a higher level due to where you are in your business, the type of business you have. It's fine. Dial in on that. If it's one type of business that you're rendering services, that's great. If it's multiple, that's fine too, but do the exercise. So once that's been done, I want you to also be aware of the fact that you can develop your positioning through the 3 C's. And the 3 C's are content. Obviously, that's content that can be disseminated on social media. That's content on your website. That's content that is even potentially produced by executives on other outlets. As long as it's cohesive and aligned in values and mission and vision, that's content that's going to continue to tell that brand story and solidify in people's minds, imprint in their minds who you are. Remember, it's more about the internal piece, not just the external. The external and the internal pieces work reflexively together, but the internal work is more important than the external work. So the next piece, community. That's community, actually your customer base, your partners. So that culture is developed really out of that community and content. All of these things work reflexively with each other. It's really important that you remember that. But I do want to also note that there's really no replacement for a clear brand strategy. A brand strategy is your foundational document that will break it all down for you. Now, I don't want you to be held back by, oh my gosh, well, we don't have a brand strategist on staff, or I don't know, that's going to take too much time, or it's not worth it. So just do those exercises as a start and start, playing with this information. And you can even begin putting it into, compiling it all together. And that will be your initial kind of internal brand strategy. But of course, over later on, you may want to work with a company like ourselves, like Alter New Media, like me, to really stand out. But you can still get started to stand out on your own internally with your organization. So with that, I do want to say again, it has been such a pleasure presenting to you today. I look forward to all of the Q&A and further activities that Think Global is going to be putting together. I would love to hear from you. You're more than welcome to get in touch with Alter New Media at info@alternewmedia.com or on Instagram at Alter New Media. And it has been a total pleasure. I wish you a great day. Thank you so much.